Morning, everybody. I hope you're having a great conference and a great summit. I'm going to talk a little bit about the 4 major trends that we see in the world today, and they're the trends that we see that are affecting consumers, businesses, and informing a lot of how we are deploying big tech and building our products and services. As we all know here today, the global marketplace is changing at an incredible pace. In 1964, if you looked at the S&P 500, the average company was about 34 years. In 1996, that's been reduced to about 26 years, and forecast by 2026 it'll be even shorter. Some might say 14 years. There is no doubt that technology and innovation is behind that rapid change. And with some companies doing incredibly well, some winning and some losing, it's worth asking the question, why? And if you take, for example, Huda Beauty. Huda Beauty started only just under 5 years ago in Dubai. Started with beauty tips. Last year, they crossed $1 billion in annual revenue. Now, when I left college, it took a lot longer to hit $1 billion in revenue than 5 years. And it's worth asking why. Huda's ranked about 37th in the Forbes Rich List. She would say that the key part of that was Instagram and putting influencers and community at the center of what she did. So what separates a good idea with those that don't work so well? We believe there's 4 reasons. First and foremost, it's curation. We live as consumers in a highly curated world, and our appetite for curation is going up exponentially. 98% of the world's data was created in the last 2 years. That gives rise to huge demand for big tech solutions like machine learning and AI. As consumers, we have never had more control over what we watch, listen, read, anywhere in the world, on any device that we want. I was working with our marketing team looking at these slides before I came here, and I have 3 sons. And last night, as I came in from work, my 10-year-old was on his PlayStation, and he was flicking around from different content from Netflix and whatnot, and came in from work, and I said, "Do you fancy a quick game?" So we're about to play our usual game of FIFA, where invariably he hammers me. My thumbs just do not move as fast as a 10-year-old. But as I was thinking about curation, and I was watching him flick around from like Sky to Netflix to loading up a game on his PlayStation with the TV and the screen. 10-year-old boy, and I said to him, just in conversation, "Jack, you know, when I was your age, on our TVs, we only had 2 channels, just 2, and that was it. And no matter what was on either one of those channels, we had to watch it." And as he was loading up his game, I could see his brain just kind of slowly ticking over and not getting the concept at all. And he just kept asking me, "What? What?" And as I tried to explain that literally, you had no control over the content that you chose to watch or engage based on the preferences that you like, he was getting increasingly frustrated. He could not get his head around it. Curation will continue. And it will continue not just in the world we know today of our mobile devices, but in what's coming with AR and VR. And behind curation, we're investing in machine learning and AI to help process the sheer huge volumes of data to deliver the consumer experiences that people want and people are choosing to engage with. And that has implications for businesses of all sizes, irrespective of what type of business you are. Businesses now need to think a lot less about what they want to say and a lot more about what people want to hear. When I left college, there was one golden rule in marketing. 101 was always think first about your target customer. Understand that customer. Profile it. Figure out what they like. Well, we recently worked with Uber and we decided to throw that 101 rule out the window. Last year, we had a Create for Growth program where we worked with some brands and we said, well, what if we just trusted machines to do what they're invariably very good at, which is to figure out and to optimize based on the curated world that people choose to live in. So we didn't start this campaign with wondering what the consumer was. Actually, we turned it on its head and we just produced a load of content. And we put it out there. And it performed far better than their average campaigns. And not only that, people chose to engage with the types of content, the types of messages that they found interesting. So for example, the younger generation engaged about 3 times more with pieces of content which brought to life FOMO, the fear of missing out on a wonderful experience. While I was going to say older, but I think I might just say the more mature generation, people like myself, engaged more with content which was premised around getting somewhere efficiently and effectively. The next big trend that we would see is community. Consumers today have rising expectations of what they expect from businesses. We know that on firsthand. We are a technology-driven company. Like everyone here, we appreciate and understand that technology is fundamentally about innovation. With innovation comes risk. We know and appreciate that over the last few years we've made mistakes. It's equally why we're moving very swiftly to address those mistakes. In the last 18 months, we have hired over 30,000 people deployed in brand new jobs, along with machine learning and AI, to ensure that our environment is more secure, more safe, and more trusted. People have very high expectations of the businesses that are going to be created in the future. They want those businesses to respect the community that they live in, the planet that we're going to leave behind for future generations, and often have more of a social conscience that was expected from businesses 10, 15, 20 years ago. And when businesses get that right, and when they tap into that consumer need for community and for belonging, businesses generate incredibly good goodwill, brand loyalty, customer affinity, and increase the consumer value of each interaction with their businesses. And we see this trend happening at an incredible place on our platform. Take a company like Gymshark. Again, Gymshark only started just over 5 years ago in the UK. Started as a fitness company. Last year, they generated more than 100 million a year. They now have 250 employees. At the root and at the center of their accelerated growth was the concept of community. They reached out to influencers in their sphere of influence around fitness, seeded their brands, their clothes with that community who in turn shared it. That was the growth accelerator to their business. Produced wonderful content, bringing people into the brand aspiration and the community that they were trying to generate around living healthily and creating a healthy lifestyle. They have over 3.5 million followers on Instagram and nearly 2 million on Facebook. When companies, large or small, tap into a bigger purpose and create a sense of community around their brand or their product or their service or destination, it works incredibly well. 3, conversation. Never before have we seen consumers want to engage and converse directly with businesses. We see this on our platform exploding at an incredible pace. This is one of those trends that started unusually in tech east and moved west. For those of you who've been to China or anywhere in Asia, we see entire businesses, entire platforms being built in a messaging-first world. People love to converse and message directly with businesses. On our platform, more than 10 billion messages are sent between businesses and people every month. There's more than a 50% step up of potential business when businesses make themselves available to message directly with consumers. We see large companies and small companies adapting this, and we see this all around the world. For example, here in Dublin, I was talking with a small jeweler. They're only in business about 18 months. They put messaging at the heart of their strategy. They turn up where consumers are, and they message directly with consumers around the design of their jewelry. Again, the jewelry is completely personalized and curated for the individual preference of the consumer. Within 18 months, they're employing 26 people and are exporting their products to over 65 countries in the world. But it's not just small business. We see the same happening with large business. Lego, global brand, created a messaging service, Ralph, who provides a personalized recommendation based on the preferences that you would choose to buy for your Lego. And finally, commerce. There's less than 2% of the global GDP in the world conducted online. It is tiny. The world of commerce is changing. The world of online versus online has become completely intermingled, but expectations online are incredibly high. Not only is consumers' expectations very high, but if you're a business, you need to recognize that literally you're competing with every business in the world. And we see that playing out. So for example, last year alone, there was over $280 billion left in abandoned shopping carts in the US alone. Consumers have very high expectations, but when you get it right, you can scale incredibly quickly all over the world. And a good example of this is a company called Flair Audio. Good friend of ours, Davies Roberts, based just outside London, is passionate about tech. And one of the areas he's passionate about in particular is listening. And he believes that how we interact with audios needs to change. So like any great entrepreneurs, he invented the tech, got his IP, and patented his great ideas. He has 12 patents. And then he tried to bring it to market. He had one big challenge though. Who's heard of Flair Audio? Nobody. This is a marketplace that's dominated by big brands, household brands, Bang & Olufsen, Bose, Sony, distributed through retailers all over the world that are known. What retailer will take a bet on a startup? Very few. How can you get shelf space? How can you break through? He couldn't break through. He couldn't get one deal. About 18 months ago, we started to work with him on his products. And using Facebook and Instagram, we went directly to consumers. He's now exporting in over 130 countries around the world. Last year, he exceeded a very important threshold, which is 5 million in annual revenue. He's up to employing 24 people. We've had a CFO of one of the biggest brands in the world leave and join his company. In Q4 last year, he did a round of crowdfunding and raised 2.2 million. He now has in his warehouse, on his desk, a little envelope with 12 global retailers, 70 retailers who want to sign multi-country deals and distribute his product. And he's just hired his first retail channel manager. So irrespective of the type of business that you're building, these 4 trends are what we see in the world. We do believe consumers will continue to want to live in a curated world. The more curation that consumers see, the more that they want. Their expectations are rising all the time. Every single day, we deliver over 2.5 billion completely personalized news feeds, irrespective of the device that they're on. On average, consumers will open just that Facebook news feed alone more than 14 times a day. And every time they do, they expect it to be completely personalized, completely relevant, completely up to date, and completely fresh. And they can often scroll through over 300 meters of content every day. And that's just Facebook. That doesn't include Instagram, WhatsApp, Messenger. The word curation will continue. It will continue in the future as we think about devices like AR and VR and headsets like Oculus. Community, tapping into community and bringing people around you on your brand purpose is highly equitable and just the right thing to do. and at the same time getting the right balance between conversation and commerce, recognizing that the consumer of the future wants to do that on their terms, on their devices, where they choose, when they want, not necessarily what you want to do. So that's a quick overview of the 4 major trends that we see. It's also a backdrop to why you will see the products and services that we're deploying this year, why we're investing in things like marketplace and shopping and commerce on platforms like Instagram and Facebook, why we're continuing to invest in messaging and make that incredibly easy, why we continue to deploy and make investments in AI, big tech, big data, machine learning to drive curated world. And I hope you find that useful and enjoy the rest of your conference. Thank you.